We are working on this Murakami poster project, and this is an example of one of Murakami's paintings. You can see it is filled with these flower shapes of all different sizes that appear to be overlapping. They're brightly colored, and they all have these smiling faces. So this is really characteristic of his style. Here's another one of his paintings. You can see in this one, he has the flowers overlapping in the background, but on top of those, he has these other characters of various sizes with different kinds of expressions on their faces, which may be interacting with each other and telling some kind of a story. We are going to be making our own poster with our own characters in the Murakami style. So I'm going to show you how to draw these shapes and faces so that they look like they're overlapping with one another so that you can fill a page. We're also going to talk about how to invent your own character. So let's start with inventing your own character. What I did for my sketch is I started to think about some different kinds of animals that I wanted to play around with to make these kinds of characters. So I started with like a monkey and a frog and some different things. And I copied a lot of the paintings that I saw of Murakami's just so that I could really understand them. So that's a really good way to start with any kind of a study of an artist, is to copy their work so that you can really understand how these characters are put together and how they all work, how all the pieces work together. And then you can be a little bit more creative and change things around and make them unique and make them your own. So you could start, I'll just use the edge of my paper here. You could start by copying one of the shapes of these characters. So generally, a lot of his characters start with an oval or a circle. So you might start with kind of an oval shape, and I'm just sketching here. This is just to get your ideas down, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then it has this one has this other kind of a oval shape inside it. So you can try playing with some of these kinds of shapes and maybe add some faces. Maybe you're going to consider copying your first one and then making your own character next once you really understand how these are put together. So I've got a sort of a face which is based on this style of face, and he's got this ear that kind of comes part way here. So I'm going to learn about how he put that together. Try sketching that in, erasing the spot so it looks like it's overlapping on top. And then you could add some kind of ears. Maybe at this time, instead of adding this long ear, maybe this time I'm going to add a round ear. So he's got these kind of side ears, and then he's got these sort of decorative, funny mouse ears on the top, these sort of round, ball-shaped ears. And it doesn't have to make sense. This is really very playful. You can see it. This is really similar to this character here. He's got the eyes on the ears on the side, and then he's got these sort of round shapes on the top. You can change this around and make it unique, make it your own. Earlier today, I was trying some different things, and instead of the ears, I tried a halo, or maybe you can try some other kinds of things. Maybe you're going to add some other facial features, or maybe you're going to add some animal features and create your own kind of a character. So that's how I would start. I recommend you practice by copying some of these and then changing them to make them your own unique creation. So in order to get your flowers to look like they are really evenly, the petals are all evenly spaced and they're all the right size, here's a trick that you could do. You could trace circles, or you could use a compass. I've got the safety compass here that I'm going to start with. And I like to make the little dot in the middle just so later I know exactly where the center is. And then you can put your pencil in one of these little holes here and rotate this around so that you get your main circle for the center of your flower. And then hold this part in the exact same spot. Make sure you haven't moved it at all. And then you need to draw a bigger circle that's going to be the edges of the flower petals, and that's going to show you how long the flower petals need to be so they're all about the same length. And then I'm going to try another thing. let's go in just a couple of spaces from that and do one more circle so that we can sort of estimate where to start the curve of the flower petals, where they start to curve outwards like this. Okay, so I've got the center for my face and I've got the outer edge for the length of the petals. So the next thing, if you really look at Murakami's flowers, he has 12 petals, and you'll notice one is always perfectly centered right at the top, one at the bottom, and one on each side, so it's like a cross shape. And then in between the cross shape, he's got 2 petals. And it's pretty much the same for most of the ones that I've seen. So you could start by making your one petal directly above the center line here. So you can mark out where you're going to have those 4 petals that sort of form the base foundation of this, and I'm just marking those where they go. And then on either side of this, I'm going to draw a line that comes from the center and goes out this way, out this way. And on either side of that, I'm going to make the same kind of thing down here. And I'm just sketching. This doesn't have to be exactly perfect. I'm just trying to get my ideas down here. But this is just one way to go about solving this problem, to get your flower petals so that they're evenly spaced and get them to look as much like Murakami as you can. Okay, so I've got that basic cross formation for the petals there. Now, if you divide each one of these wider spaces just in half like this, with one little mark in half, then you can draw one more line in between each of those. And that will give you 2 petals in between each one. Now, if you go to this outer, or this circle here that's a little bit bigger than the middle circle, you can make your little arch at the end of each one of these to complete the flower petal shape, so that they're, and some of them you might have to adjust a little, like maybe that one's a little too narrow. So you can do any changes you need. Since you're using pencil, you can sketch these and erase. And then you're going to get this to be relatively Murakami style. And again, make any adjustments that you need to make for the width of each one of these so that they look pretty uniform. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be scientific. You could just freehand all this. This is just tips if you're having trouble. Freehand is fine. Then you would go back through and erase some of these lines that you used just as the foundation. And to do the faces, a lot of times the eyes are kind of ovals and they sort of angle inwards a little. And then the smile has a slight arch to the top of it and scoops down at the bottom in the middle. So you could do something like this. Or you could create your own facial features. You don't have to copy this exactly. You have complete freedom to do what you want here. Okay, so I've got my main central flower for this project here. Now, how do you do these so that they look like they're behind this one? You could use a compass, or you could draw freehand, or you could trace something else and make another circle that looks like it's kind of going behind some of the flower petals here. And maybe a little smaller, because things in the distance always look a little smaller. So I'm going to make this one back here a little bit smaller by using one of the circles that's in a little farther towards the center here. So this one's a little bit smaller, and I'm going to make the little dot in the middle so I know where the center of this circle is. And same thing here. I'm going to make my marks to divide this into quarters so I have that cross formation in the middle. And then I forgot I need to do my outer circles too. I'm going to put that back, and that's a good reason why I have that dot there, so I can put this back on and do my outer circle. And one that's just a little bit farther out for the curves on my flower petals. Okay. Now I've got these marked so I know where to put my first set of petals. So I've got to do this sort of first petal. I'm going to erase that little middle mark so I don't get confused later. And on either side of this, I'm going to make the petal go this way. And then I'm going to erase that little mark so I don't get mixed up. And this one kind of looks like it's going behind all this. So I can only see the one side. Same thing here. The side of this one I'll be able to see, but the other side of it kind of gets lost. It gets lost behind there. So that's what creates that illusion that we have a little bit of overlapping in depth. Next, the spaces in between these four main cross-shaped petals, divide each one of these in half, and then we're going to have two petals in between each one. So this line goes out. Try to be careful to keep those evenly spaced so you have less adjusting later. And then you can start to do your curves around the edges to complete those flower petals. And again, you really don't have to go into all this scientific detail with all the tools and measuring. You could freehand these and they could look awesome. So don't stress out about making these accurate, like scientific. You can totally be creative and just go with it. This is just tools for people who want to make it a little easier for themselves. You can do it any way you want. And then now it looks like we've got this one that overlaps behind this one. Or this one overlaps on top of this one is more accurate. And you can do your cute little smile. And then you could do another little circle. Maybe you're going to do another one right here. And you would keep on going and going until you build up your whole background of these flowers. I do recommend before you do the whole background, put in some of the characters that you invented so that you've got these behind your main characters in your poster. Again, this is meant to be a very creative process, and I know it sounds like it's a little bit scientific with all the tools, so you can do it however you want. This is just a tool for you to make it easier for you if you want it. If not, you can freehand it. I hope you enjoy making your Murakami style poster.